There's a need for basic energy. It's kind of hard. In fact, one measurement of human activity is the continued mastery and control, or I prefer to call it the taming of energy resources for productive uses. Now, we also know that there's many different kinds of energy, and I just decided we would pick this. That's the little sawdust fire with the fuel oil, which is always one of my favorite memories about how to make bricks. And energy is a monstrously important subject to all of history, so I steal a couple of sketches. So the first thing we really studied early on is we need basic energy. If you want to talk about any of the things that we tend to speak about in the development world, these are the MDGs. And that we've discussed now in the class, and you've written quite well about, the invisible MDG, the one for energy, which is necessary to make so many of these MDGs successful. So if you care about any of these issues, well, if you don't care about any of these issues, what the hell are you doing at SIPA? But if you care about any of these issues, then you really need to focus on energy inputs, production, distribution, financing of energy in order to achieve most of these. Okay, the next thing we studied was the potential of local enterprises. And we've got our lovely little E+C spider, which you all mastered, and the 4 characteristics that customers need to meet and the 4 characteristics that enterprises need to meet. So we've studied that a little bit. Then we've gone through a whole bunch of enterprise examples. This would require a little bit of a microscope if you've never seen it before. Red ceramics in Bolivia, where there was a fuel switching project where natural gas was used instead of that lovely little sawdust and oil combination showed in the earlier slide. This is one that didn't switch to natural gas. This is one that did. This is a cooperative deal, which on the radar scope, most people would tell you, well, it has very little chance of working. But this is the deal also, where it was wiped out by a landslide, and all the people requested in terms of financial relief was a 6-month deferral on their payments. So we've got a lot of enterprises. The thing works. But when you ask why it doesn't, why isn't it really gotten traction, you don't have to worry. We have this entire roster of myths that we've reviewed piecemeal of why this stuff doesn't work. Okay? You don't have to worry. We need more technology. No, we don't. We have enough technology for the next 50 years. Good working policies are unknown. Duh. We got 10,000 people in the world working on policy. 10,000 people can't come up with 5 policies that work? There are successful policies, and there are more poor policies than you imagine. There are successful support programs, but we still persist saying support programs haven't proved the case. Oh, don't worry, the market's too weak, the poor can't pay, and they don't pay. That's drivel. That's been resolved as far back as 1986. It doesn't matter. It can still be cited quite often in conversations. Oh, we have a shortage of entrepreneurs in the developing world. Excuse me, we've got 2.5 billion people, and most of them are entrepreneurs so they can eat from one day to the next, and we have a shortage of entrepreneurs? Okay. We don't understand what this capacity building is about. Well, we've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in capacity building. And as I once listened to the World Bank president say, we either got to stop talking about it or we got to start doing it right. Because if we're spending tens and hundreds of millions of dollars on capacity building and we really don't think we understand it, well, we're probably doing something wrong. Nobody in the room was comfortable when he said that. Oh, there's a capital shortage. Right. We need new mechanisms. Innovative finance is the answer. And we need new tools. These are myths. Some have a grain of truth to them. Some have 2 grains of truth to them. Most of them are just very, very good reasons why this stuff is so hard to do. And in our review. So the conventional wisdom says when we get to the year 2030, we're going to be in the same mess that we are now. The same number of 1.x billion people are going to be not have electricity, and 2.x billion people are going to be cooking with traditional fuels. So it's a pretty ugly picture. What do you have to ask ourselves? if the previous review was reasonable, and if I can stand up here and say to you the enterprise-centered delivery model for energy actually works, how do we find ourselves in this circumstance where we're basically saying nothing's going to improve by 2030? One of those two statements is false. Either the enterprise-centered delivery model doesn't work, or we shouldn't be consigning 1/3 of all the people in the world to energy poverty.